Okay, good evening, everybody. We're glad to have you here. Welcome to the 31st annual induction ceremony. Can you not hear it, Karen? Have you got so many? Can you hear it in the background? Might need to raise the audio there a little bit, but let me raise this up a little bit. Can you hear now? Okay. Is that better, Ralph? Okay. You stay where you are. You're going to take the tickets in a little bit. You know your job. We're glad to have you here. I'm Jeff Joins, and it's my pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies this evening for the 31st annual Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. This is a special night for our community. Not only are we going to honor 4 outstanding individuals, we have 2 teams that we're recognizing tonight for special accomplishments from nearly 50 years ago. So it's a special night. We're delighted that all of you are here. We have video going over here, and I want to let you know that Caldwell Community College, channel 192, once the production work is done, this video will be available on the local channel, channel 192, and give him about a week or 10 days, and the video is also going to be uploaded to YouTube. We have all kinds of technology in our world today, so there's opportunity to have it, to view it once again, and especially for our inductees and family and friends who were not able to be here tonight, you'll still have that opportunity. Our corporate sponsor for this event is Blue Ridge Energy, and they have been the corporate sponsor now for a decade. We're delighted for that partnership with the Sports Hall of Fame Committee and with the Caldwell County Rotary Club. This is an official meeting of the Rotary Club, and you'll hear more about that in just a moment from our club president. But the chairman of this committee is Chris Cole, and he's the man that does a good bit of the hard labor that helps make this event possible tonight. I'm going to call on Chris for some introductions and some comments.
Well, a great turnout. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. And it's an honor to be able to represent both Caldwell County Rotary Club and the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. And I get the privilege, especially contacting the families and those inductees, and to congratulate them on their induction into the Hall of Fame. But we don't do it alone, and we also have a Sports Hall of Fame committee, and I'd like for each of those folks to please stand if you're here with the Hall of Fame committee. And I especially want to give a shout out to Karen Trevick, because without her, I don't think any of us would be here. She's what keeps us going, especially the contact with the past inductees and the teams we're honoring. So she does countless hours of work behind the scenes to contact those folks and have those tickets available. So I appreciate Karen's help with that. Also would like to thank Michael Riggs, who is a partner with us, our Rotary Club. He's a sponsor with the Interact Club at West Caldwell High School, but also an accomplished musician. So we thank him for his playing during the meal and our time of fellowship. So we want to get on with the program. So now we'd like to actually welcome Kevin Miller, who is this year's president of the Caldwell County Rotary Club.
Good evening, folks. As Mr. Jeff Joins said, this is an official meeting of the Caldwell County Rotary Club, and the bell you just heard ring is a traditional opening of our meeting. Folks, our Rotary Club meets at Clarence's Friendly Lunch at 6:44 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So if you're wondering why 6:44 a.m., we are the earliest meeting Rotary Club in the world. At this time, I would like to recognize our Rotary members. If all of our members of the Caldwell Rotary Club would please stand. Okay, now if everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, folks, we have I don't want to say a guest because she's certainly not a guest, but we have our district governor from Rotary, Tiffany Urban, here with us tonight, so I want to certainly give her a few minutes to speak to the audience. And thank you again and enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, I also recognize that what stands between you and dinner is me. So I promise to follow the 3 B's: be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. So it is certainly an honor to be here with you this evening. I live in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and I get to serve as district governor for 48 Rotary clubs all across western North Carolina, 2 of which are right here in Caldwell County. And I just want to say I saw all of our Rotarians from the Caldwell County Club sitting in the rear of the room back there. But there is room for you to join them at the table any Tuesday morning for breakfast. And what an honor it is for them to have produced such a remarkable event here tonight for 31 consecutive years. So let's give a nice round of applause for our Caldwell County Rotary Club. This is an incredible opportunity. And as a sports fan and former sideline reporter, this is certainly, I was excited to learn about this event. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Rotarians who are here, to all of them as well, to all of you who are attending, their sponsors who have made such an impact and helped to make this event possible. And I do want you, just to encourage you to learn more about Rotary. We are people of action who are making a difference right here in our community and around the globe. We would love to tell you more about that. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. I look forward to meeting many of you. Thank you so much for being here.
And Tiffany, thank you again for joining us tonight. At this time, I will call Chris Cole back to the podium.
2 quick things. I will mention it later. A couple of things that Rotary helped sponsor, we're passionate about. One, you'll see the cart buckets on the tables. Those are one of the things we do at our meetings. It's coins for Alzheimer's research. And as more and more folks, you know, all of us, I probably know someone or somebody's family that's been touched by that disease. So if you can contribute to that. And that must be the money table I said back there, because I actually put 2 buckets on that table. Also, we'll be, during the meal, before the program actually gets started, we'll be going around selling half and half tickets as well. That will go to Polio Plus, another thing that Rotary International, along with the Bill Gates Foundation, has continued to eradicate polio. I think we're down to two countries now, only 2. So I know many of you that were around many years ago when that was more concern here in the U.S. will remember those times. So those half and half tickets will be $1 a piece, or 6 for $5, or you do the math, 12 for 10, or whatever. And I'll turn it back over to Jeff to give you the directions.
Thank you, Chris. Other than Tiffany, how many Gamecock fans do we have here tonight?
You might be the only one.
Oh, I knew Fred would raise his hand. Tiffany, you need to raise it again, Fred. You need to meet Fred. He's the only one in Caldwell County that's a Gamecock fan. Now, show her how many Mountaineer fans we've got in here.
Oh, this weekend's going to be bad.
And guess who plays South Carolina in about 10 days? Yeah, okay. It's going to be wild. All right, here's the rules for supper. The head table goes first. That's this crowd right here. And it's that way because we've got things we've got to do when some of you may still be eating when we get started. But we're going to go out this door over here, go around and down the hallway where the plaques are displayed. By the way, if you have not seen the plaques or would like to see them, all of them are in that hallway over yonder.
Except this year.
Except the ones for this year. They'll be up there within a few weeks from now. So you can take a look at those as you walk down the hall. And when you come out that door down there, you'll see the smiling face of City Councilman Ralph Presswood. And Ralph is holding a little box, and in that box you'll deposit your ticket for the meal. And then proceed through the salad line. And our good friends with Myra's Catering in Valdez. For 31 years, they have done this banquet. And they're doing it again tonight. So we look forward to a good meal. So we've had the blessing. You've had your instructions. The head table will follow Chris out the door. And then here's the most important part, GC. The honorees will go next. These tables right here for the honorees, and then we'll start with GC's table right back there. Fred, you got close, but you didn't get to the main part. But if you'll follow that order across the room, we would appreciate it. Let's have a good meal. We'll sell the half and half tickets around the room. Courtney and Thomas are right over here behind the camera. If they haven't been to your table, they will be around in a little bit. If you would like to get a ticket, please raise your hand or walk over to them if they haven't seen you yet. This money goes, half of it goes to the club and half of it goes to Polio Plus, which is an effort that Rotary does to try to eradicate polio from what's left in the world. And I'll remind you once again about the blue buckets that are on your table. There's very few families that haven't been touched by that dreaded disease of Alzheimer's, and we are collecting funds, Rotary members are collecting funds for Alzheimer research, and that's what those blue buckets are for. We would encourage you to put folding money in there, but we will accept coin. In fact, we'll accept whatever you put in there. If you want to write a check, we'll take a check as well. Just make it to Caldwell County Rotary Club, and we'll take care of the rest. Thank you for that. Hope you've enjoyed your meal. We're going to start here in just a couple of minutes with our ceremony for this evening. Let's give the folks at Myra's a nice round of applause for their work. I'd like to remind you that our good friends at Blue Ridge Energy are the corporate sponsor for this event. Blue Ridge Energy serves about 76,000 members across the northwestern part of North Carolina, and they're proud to be a sponsor along with the Caldwell County Rotary Club. And we remind you once again that the video of this event will be soon on YouTube and on Caldwell Community College Channel 192, and on AT&T, what was that channel again? 99. If you have AT&T, it's on Channel 99, the Community College channel. And we believe eventually that'll also end up on the county government channel, which is 190. But we'll have it for you on the Community College channel. If you enjoyed the music from Michael Riggs tonight, could you give Michael a nice round of applause? Michael, thank you, sir. If you haven't had a chance to eat your supper yet, you might want to go ahead and head that way, Michael. So thank you very, very much. Not only did Michael play, Michael tuned the piano too. So if you have a future event here at the Civic Center, you can thank him for tuning the piano as well. Ladies and gentlemen, every year, one of the portions of our induction ceremony is that we recognize the prior inductees in the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. It's a bittersweet task that I have to do because sadly, this project now 31 years, and almost half of the people who have been inducted have passed away. But some of their family members are here tonight, and we're delighted that they were able to come and still represent their loved one each year here at our banquet. And then obviously we have a number of living inductees who are here as well. I'm going to call the roll, and I'm going to ask for the living inductees to stand as I call your name. But before I begin that roll, I would like for the family members of the deceased inductees to the Sports Hall of Fame, if you would please stand where you are. Thank you. Thank you. Now, as I call the roll, I would appreciate if the living members who are here to please stand where you are. This project began back in 1989. And our club on the original year did 6 inductees. Each year since then we have done 4. And most years we followed the pattern of 3 living and 1 deceased. There's been a few exceptions to that, but for most most years, that has been the pattern of induction, 3 living and 1 deceased. So I'm going to begin the roll call, and if you would please stand if you're here. Dr. William N. Corpening this is the class of 1989. Bill Cross, James H. Jones, Albert Rube Walker, Henry Bulldog Patterson, George E. Cap Weesey. From the class of, that was the original class in 1989. From 1990, the class included Jennifer Elaine Alley, Donald Lee Kirkpatrick, Larry Grayson Smith, William B. Stronach, Jr. From 1991, M.S. Deal, Dwight Perkins, Lindsay Deal, and Big Bob McCrary. And if you haven't heard, Bob was recently named one of the ACC honorees at the ACC championship game. He will represent Wake Forest in their special ceremony at the football championship game later this fall. 1992, Clayton Speck Everhart, Walter W. Rabb, Jack Clark, Johnny Thomas, Johnny Allen. From 1993, Gil Beck, Dreama Sue Greer, Jack Curtis, Don Carlton. From 1994, Fred Lanford, Joe R. Cook, Maxie Williams. Maxie's a member of the team that we're going to recognize in just a little bit. Charles R. Charlie Sullivan. From 1995, Ron Bean. And I know some of you have already asked me, where's Ron? He normally does our induction ceremony. But tonight, Ron's a little bit under the weather. I would ask that you keep him in your prayers. He had a minor surgery the other day. Chris is watching him like a hawk. And all reports from family members are that he's doing okay. In fact, I talked with him yesterday. But disappointed, for the first time in 31 years, Ron's not here. Charles R. Cut Kazorik, Bill Link, Verlin Lee Walker. From 1996, Robert A. Gibbons, Jr., William U.D. Pitts, James Reed, Andrew Fry Torrance III, way back there. 1997, Richard Dickey Foster, George Murphy, Ned Pennell, Spencer Gerald Red Robbins Sr. From 1998, Gary Henson, Rob Moore, Tommy Simmons, and Jeff Joins. From 1999, Mike Biggerstaff, Tommy Dunn, William F. Willie Lefevers, C.W. Soup Porter. From 2000, Charles B. Skip Downs II. Where's Skip? I know he's here somewhere. Stand up, Skip, so they can see you. Charlie Hope, Naomi Swift, Ted Watson. From 2001, Reed R. Aldridge Jr., Carl Odell Jenkins, Judge Vernon Mills, James B. Peanut Wilcox. There's Peanut. 2002, Bob Clark, Verner T. Phillips, Tommy Simmons, the second Tommy Simmons, Boyd E. Bobo Wilson. From 2003, Reese Corpening, J.C. Mundy, Willis Hap Setzer, Ed Rip Tudor. From 2004, Lewis Bub Bernhardt, Wayne Kirby, Darrell Lipford, Janet Mason, 2005, John Gerald Childers Sr., Joe Hightower, Philip Horton, Karen Spencer Trivett. 2006, Steve Crisp, John McRae Mac Robbins, Joseph Franklin Spencer, Jim Watson. Jim's on one of the teams we're going to recognize here in a little bit. 2007, Barry Benfield, Walter Goins, Peggy Ward, Glenwood Wilson. 2008, Harold Beach, Jerry Bean, Derek Donald, Max Presswood. 2009, Wilford Bean, Ted Crow, Jay Knight, Gary Eugene Laws. 2010, Bill Frazier. Where's Bill? Back in the back. His team's going to be recognized in just a little bit. Joe Gibbons, Ken Sipes, Walter Lentz. 2011, Danny Anderson, Jim Benfield, Nancy W. Dula, N.A. Red Greer. 2012, Mark Porch, Jeanette Turner, Magruder Tuttle, Jack Pennell. 2013, Paul Beck, G.C. Trivett, John Howarth, Kevin Simmons. 2014, Donald Kirkpatrick Jr., Dirk Moss, Jill Suddreth, Wade Teague. 2015, Holly Andrews, Garland Bill Crump, Bill Slayton, Joe Walker. 2016, Marty Curtis, Darrell Jones, W.D. King, Frank Butch Smith III. 2017, Andy Anderson, Wesley Van Griffin, William C. Bill Isaac, Jarvis B. Suddreth. And last year, J.B. Myers, Mary Doug McGee Murdoch, Larry W. Taylor, and Derek Jerome Witherspoon. And last year we honored the 1958 Gamewell High School team. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the roll call for the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. We have two teams that we're going to specially recognize tonight. We're delighted that some of those living individuals are still here, and I'm going to call on the committee chairman, Chris Cole, to lead us in that part of the ceremony this evening. Chris?
Thank you, Jeff. Also, while we're honoring the teams, we'll be wrapping up the half and half, and we'll announce that winner before we do the induction of this year's inductees. First, I want to recognize the 1956 Granite Falls High School football team. They were the North Carolina C-State champions, and the Blue Demons were coached by Coach Donald Kirkpatrick, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Robert Henry. Where's Coach at? So there he is. Now I'm going to also, I think, looking at it, like Jeff said, there's actually 5 players of this team actually individually honored in the Hall of Fame along with Coach Kirkpatrick. Their final standing that year was 9-3-1, including 5 shutouts. So it must have been a good defensive team there, Coach. So I'd like to recognize the members, and if they are here, I'd ask for them to please stand, remain standing so we can honor them. Ken Church, Tommy Simmons, who is in the Hall of Fame, Wayne Johnson, Benny Teague, Steve Simmons, Cordell Austin, Johnny Carter, Max Hilton, Lynn Cagle, Wayne Starnes, Maxie Williams in the Hall of Fame, Wayne Kirby in the Hall of Fame, Lanny Elmore, Vittoria Senioto, hopefully, got that right, Rex Watson, Larry Teague, Tommy Wright, Tommy Gilbert, Jerry McIntosh, Bobby Bumgarner, Wade Teague, who's in the Hall of Fame, Cecil Mundy in the Hall of Fame, Michael Baxter, Ricky Hamrick, Junior Phillips, Carl Cannon, and Jackie Teague as manager. Well, let's recognize all those folks. And if I left anybody else, we apologize, because trying to go back with some of the old archives to make sure we got everything. But the only thing we had from that team was what was in the school yearbook. So actually that picture that's in everything, it was from 2 pages we had to kind of combine to try to get them in one photo sheet. Next, we'd like to honor the 1958 Lenoir Teener Team All-Star baseball team. They were sponsored by the VHW Post 5381 and was comprised of players ages 13 through 15 from Hudson, Lenoir, Lower Creek, and Whitnall areas. The 1958 All-Star team was coached by Bill Frazier, who's a member of the Hall of Fame, and assisted by Jim Price. Lenoir Teener team won both the state championship and the Southeastern Regional Championship. After winning the regional championship, they represented the Southeastern region in the National Title Tournament held in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The Lenoir All-Stars were the national runner-up and actually handed the champions from Bossier City, Louisiana, their only loss of the tournament. And actually, even though they were runner-up, Lenoir catcher Joe Gibbs was voted MVP of the tournament. Yeah. So now I'd like to recognize those members, starting with Bill Frazier, the coach, and also Jim Price. Team members, Jimmy Taylor, Rex Cannon, Tom Dula, James Hatton, Steve McDonald, Billy Abel, Jackie Keller, Barry Story, Jim Cook, Bruce Winkler, Howard Early, Joe Gibbs, Steve Sumlin, Eddie Church, Jim Watson. They had Steve Earp was a bat boy, and then something had Larry Earp as part of the team, and then I know Larry Tripley also, I think, broke his arm and wasn't able to go to regionals, but was part of that team. Thank you. Let's also, I'll do them both, I forgot to do the other one. If you're family or friends of the 58 team, please stand. We'd like to recognize you as well. Thank you. And also for family and friends of the 1956 Granite Falls team, if you'd please stand. Family and friends. So that brings through, we did 2 teams this year. Last year was the first year we honored a team, and actually we have got a plaque up that was just put up this afternoon that as we continue to honor teams, we'll add a plaque or placard on that. It was right as you go down the hall. If you didn't get a chance to see that when you went through the food line, check it out before you leave. Oh, are we ready for the drawing? Got any other? Okay. We'll let Jeff talk a little bit.
When they sold the tickets, they kept them all together, so they're over there separating each individual one. So if you happen to buy, say, 6 or 12, we don't want to pull the whole thing out. That just wouldn't quite be fair. So they'll be ready here in just a moment for the drawing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take just a moment to tell you how people get inducted. We have a nomination process that involves a form that gets filled out, and then you can attach any other documents that you would like to the form. But those are reviewed each year by the Hall of Fame committee. Once you're nominated, that induction stays, or that nomination stays on file from then on. And it's reviewed every year by the committee. It is a labor of love, and it is a lot of detailed work that the committee members go through each year for this process of selecting the individuals to be inducted. And if the Hall of Fame committee members who are here tonight, I would ask that you please stand, because I think you need to be recognized. Hall of Fame committee members. I think our program has the full list of those who are currently serving on the committee, and not only that, but it also includes those who have served on the committee over the past 31 years. So thanks to each individual for their service and their dedication to this project. Caldwell County Rotary began this in 1989, and we're very proud to be the founding group that keeps this project going as well. Courtney, how are we doing back there? We're ready. All right, let's let Tiffany draw the winning number, then we'll have somebody from out of town to blame it on. Chris will be here in just a minute.
I went to that's right.
Rita, you got ours over there? Okay. Shake them up real good, Chris.
I'm working on it.
Thanks to Courtney and Thomas for, I think they're just now going to eat supper. Oh, they're going after dessert. Okay. All right.
I think this was a record.
Looks like it.
We had $476, so the winner gets $238 if you do. We're doing our math right.
That sounds pretty close. Chris is doing his best to stir it up. One ticket, Tiffany.
Just hand it behind you there.
Okay. All right, here's the number. In order to play, you have to have a red ticket. If yours is some other color, you really got conned tonight. All right. It's a red ticket, and the first 3 numbers are 928. Anybody left? All right, let's go a little deeper into this. 9280. Oh, I hear a few groans. $238, I believe you said?
Yes.
Next number, 92800. Oh, got one more to go. One more number to go. All right, if you think you're still in, raise your hand. Probably somebody's got them all. We're going to find out right here in just a second. All right, last full number, 928009. There it is. Now, every Tuesday morning when we do the drawing at the Rotary Club, there's a little blue bucket, and we always remind people, whatever the Lord lays on your heart, put it in the bucket. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And we will be sending a 1099 a little bit later on. Are you ready for the induction? Yes. All right, let's get started. Tonight we have 4 outstanding individuals that are going to be inducted into the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. And the first one we're going to do tonight is Johnny Hatton. Johnny's presenter is Joe Gibbons. And I'm going to ask Johnny just to stay right here where he's comfortably seated. Joe's going to take care of the presentation of the medallion and the plaque. So Mayor Gibbons, a member of our Hall of Fame committee, we'll turn the podium over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
It's a pleasure to be with you tonight and to recognize Mr. Johnny Hatton. You know, growing up in Lenoir and being a Bearcat myself and a Bearcat fan, I got to watch Johnny Hatton play ball for many years. Football, baseball at Lenoir, where he was a star. Little League. He started in the Little League and played in those early days of Little League in Lenoir area. As a halfback, as they called it back in those days. Running backs, we call them now. An all-conference at Lenoir. Selected to play in the Forest City Lions Bowl game back in those days. Lettered also in basketball, but his real love was in baseball. And I also got to not only watch him play at Lenoir High School, he and my brother Mike were pretty close in age and graduated within a year of each other. But he was a star, all-state star baseball player as a Bearcat outfielder. Played in our American Legion programs in the early days of that when it was just getting started. And after he finished those years, signed with the New York Yankees organization, where he played for several years in the rookie league, minor league teams down in Sarasota and Fort Lauderdale. But we really remember him when he came back and played for the semi-pro teams, the Lenoir Oilers, the Broyhill Chiefs, the Surepackers, the Furniture Kings. We know all those great names. And I got the bat boy for that when I was about 10, 11, 12. So I got to watch all those great games. So it was a very special time to be a fan of the Oilers and all this up at what we now call Walker Stadium. Those days it was Lenoir Park and Davenport Field. We've called it a lot of names. But it was great to watch those guys. And he helped lead the Chiefs to 4 North Carolina semi-pro championships. He also played, as I said, for the Oilers and the Furniture Kings. He was a team MVP in '67 and '71, leading the team in batting. And one of the greatest pictures I ever saw was one with he and Andy Torrance standing there with Andy with his bat left-handed and him right-handed. It looked like Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle of those days, with that great picture of those guys and great memories. But it's a great honor to induct tonight Johnny Hatton of True Bearcat into the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. I'm going to bring that medal to him right now and the plaque.
You want to read it before you go?
I will. Thank you. That's why we keep you up here, to keep us straight. And this reads, Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame, presented to John Timothy Johnny Hatton, baseball, football, inducted October the 28th, 2019, sponsored by the Rotary Club of Caldwell County. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Hatton. Congratulations. Thank you. Great honor.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'll let you have your notes back.
Appreciate that.
And congratulations, Johnny. In just a moment, I'm going to call your grandson, Zach Adams, to the podium to make some remarks on behalf of you and the family. But Joe mentioned several of the things, but I want to read to you the official plaque that will be on display here with all the other plaques that you saw earlier this evening. John Timothy Johnny Hatton, baseball, football. Born in Caldwell County on September the 23rd, 1944, to John and Faye Hatton. Played Little League Baseball in Lenoir, attending Lenoir High School, graduating in 1962. Played halfback in football, earning all conference honors his senior year. Selected to play in the Forest City Lions Bowl All-Star game. Lettered in basketball. Earned all state honors in baseball as a Bearcat outfielder. Played American Legion baseball for 3 years. Drafted and signed by the New York Yankee organization in 1964. Assigned to the Sarasota Rookie League team. Advanced to the Fort Lauderdale team for the 1965 and 66 seasons. Enjoyed a lengthy career in local semi-pro baseball, first as a player and later as a coach. Helped lead the Broyhill Chiefs to 4 North Carolina semi-pro championships. Also played for the Sure Packers, the Furniture Kings, and the Oilers. Voted the most popular player in 1967 and remained one of the most popular players to ever play here in Lenoir. Team MVP for 1967, a batting average of 382. 382. Team MVP in 1971 with a batting average of 396. It got better. Like a fine wine, it gets better with age. 3 times participated in the National Baseball Congress of America tournament in Wichita, Kansas. Married to the former Brenda Triplett, 2 daughters, Kim and Carla. And now his grandson, Zach, is going to make remarks on behalf of the family. Zach, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Zach Adams. I'm the eldest grandson of Johnny Hatton. I'll be presenting on his behalf this evening due to various health issues. And the recent issues are preventing him from speaking tonight. Johnny is in attendance to accept the honor. My grandfather would like to thank the Rotary Club for the privilege and honor of inducting him into the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. He also wants to thank his late parents, John and Faye Hatton, his wife Brenda, his 2 children, Kim and Carla, his grandsons, and the rest of his family and friends for the love and support throughout the years. He most importantly wants to thank his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for not only giving him his athletic ability, but for his salvation as well. Pawpaw, I want to personally say thank you for allowing me to speak on your behalf. This has been a long time coming for you. I'm so happy the day is finally here. I love you very much, and you more than deserve this. My grandfather started playing sports as a young boy. There were no video games, cell phones, or computers. Back then, as he says, all there was to do was play ball. And play ball he did. He played basketball, football, and of course, the wonderful sport of baseball, which he is so widely known for today. He played football at Lenoir High School, only weighing 126 pounds at the time, which is a weight I haven't personally seen since I was 12 years old. His coach even went on as far as to buff his weight on the program listing by 20 pounds because of his small size. He was actually given the nickname Rat for reasons we're not entirely sure of. I'd like to think it was because of his small frame, big ears, and big teeth that he hadn't grown into yet as a young man. It could also have a lot to do with how he could move on the field, darting in and out of defenders with ease. And despite his size in football and because of his athletic ability, he was able to accomplish such feats as returning a 67-yard punt and running back a 47-yard interception. These types of efforts amounted in him earning all-conference honors and a spot on an all-star football team that was chosen by 2 conferences, where he would play in the Lions Bowl in Forest City, North Carolina. And though he could pick up in any sport and excel in it, baseball was his true calling. He started playing Little League Baseball for Coach Bunny Maynard. He then played high school baseball his junior and senior years, making all-state team honors. He also played Caldwell County American Legion Baseball his senior year of high school and 2 years after. After American Legion ball, he played semi-professional baseball for the Lenoir Oilers. And in 1965, he signed a contract to play for the Sarasota, Florida Rookie League, which was a division of the New York Yankees. He then went on and played for the Gulf Coast League for the Fort Lauderdale Yankees. He was doing it all, and he was having a blast. But if you ask him what one of his favorite memories was while playing at this level, a level that very few ever reach in their life, he will tell you was meeting Joe DiMaggio at spring training. Not because it was Joe DiMaggio he was meeting, but because it was Joe DiMaggio, husband to Marilyn Monroe. In 1967, my grandfather returned to his hometown of Lenoir and began playing semi-pro baseball for the Broyhill Chiefs and the Lenoir Sure Packers. While playing for the Broyhill Chiefs, he helped lead the team to 4 North Carolina semi-pro championships. He also was a 3-time participant in the National Baseball Congress of America tournament. He was then the manager and player for 3 years for the Lenoir Furniture Kings. And if you know my grandfather Johnny, you know that he would always go to bat for his player when there was a blown call. He wouldn't hesitate to charge an umpire, bump chest, and occasionally kick a little dirt on either the plate or the umpire himself. He's had his fair share of tossings, and believe it or not, I've witnessed one tossing myself. He actually wasn't even coaching at the time. He was in the stands at one of my games heckling the ump. Mind you, that was one of my pee-wee ball tournaments when I was 8 years old. He was simply passionate about the game. It was his life. And it literally put food on the table for the family. At one time, Kentucky Fried Chicken and Holiday Inn provided meals for the family of local players who hit home runs. Needless to say, he almost single-handedly put them both out of business. He has accomplished so many things within the sports world, and so many people know him for those accolades. I know him as something a little bit more. I know him as the man who taught me so many things. He taught me how to fly a kite. He taught me how to swim. He taught me how to ride a bike, even though the first attempt led to me going right into a rose bush. He, along with my father, taught me how to play ball and how to love the game as much as he did. He's gotten me out of slumps. He's weighed me home as my third base coach. And he's picked me up and hugged me when I slid into home to win the game with tears running down my face. To him, my successes and others around him that he loves so dearly makes him more proud than anything he ever accomplished himself. That's the Johnny Hatton I know. But tonight, Paul, because of the wonderful godly man you are, and because you decided to bless so many around you with your athletic talents, friends, family, teammates, players alike, we can be proud of you. I love you so much, as do the rest of us here tonight on your behalf. And I will say that picking up a ball, because that's all there was to do, turned out pretty well for you.
Thank you, Zach. Very moving acceptance, and we appreciate your coming to the podium. I would ask that the family and friends and former teammates of Johnny Hatton to please stand. Be recognized. Thank you for your presence here tonight to help make this a special evening for the Hatton family. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Hatton is now and forever enshrined in the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Johnny. Our next recipient tonight is Gary Phillips Jr. Gary's presenter is Karen Trivet. I'm going to ask Karen to come to the podium to present the medallion and the plaque. And Gary Sr., if you would come as well, please, to the podium. He's going to be making remarks for the family.
Good evening. Good evening. Very pleased to be here tonight. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Blue Demons from 1956 football state championships. That was my school. Go Blue Demons. I'd like to congratulate the 58 Teener League team. National runners-up is quite an accomplishment. And I can tell you that old baseball players never die, they just play golf, because I've played with a bunch of them. I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Hatton on this, Mr. Bruce Suddreth on his induction, and my good friend Ray Suddreth for his induction. Like I said, I don't have anywhere to put my notes, so bear with me. This is what happens when you get old, you can't read. I am very proud and pleased to present Gary Phillips for induction into the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. I have literally known the Phillips family my entire life. I'm talking my entire life. Gary Sr.'s mom, Gary Jr.'s grandmother, Margaret, worked with my grandparents for years, and I spent a lot of time with her. Most days I spent more time with Margaret than I did my own grandparents. And I loved her just as I loved my grandparents. I used to kid Gary Jr. at West Caldwell. He'd see me coming, he'd just turn the other way. Because I would get a bunch of his friends around, and I'd say, Gary, tell them. And he'd just roll his eyes. I'd say, tell him we have the same grandmother. Tell him. He knew what was coming. After a while, he just would roll his eyes. And one day, a young boy walked up to me and said, Gary was standing there, and I started saying something. He said, don't. And he said, well, you and Gary really have the same grandmother? And I said, yes, we do. And Gary pulled up his shirt sleeve and put his arm up next to mine. He said, you think we really have the same grandmother? Really? So I did always love to kid him about that. Gary was a great guy, such a great athlete, such a good kid at West Caldwell. He had the most mischievous grin you have ever seen in your life. He's coming grinning, and you know when something's not going to be just exactly right. But he was such a good person. And when we had the 2 tragic deaths on campus at West Caldwell in 1991, he was one of the ones that stood up to try to keep things calm at West Caldwell. And it was hard. That was hard for, I think he was probably a junior when that happened. And it was hard to do that. It was a tough time, but he truly helped us out during that very difficult time. So I am very honored and very pleased to present this tonight. The plaque will read Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame, presented to Gary Jr., Phillips Jr., football, basketball, baseball, inducted October 28, 2019, sponsored by the Rotary Club of Caldwell County.
Don't forget the lapel pin there as well. Gary, you go ahead and make your remarks, and then I'll read the official plaque list.
Yeah, you go ahead and say what you want to say, Gary.
Okay.
Okay?
Turn around.
Yeah, can you turn around and face everybody? Just a
I'll
little.
do this for you while you're done.
Yeah.
I'm not nosy, I'm just his sister Helen, and he had convinced me to talk for him for weeks and weeks, and I thought, oh boy, talking to Gary, and he's full of information himself. So he finally told me Wednesday, Helen, I can talk, I can do it this time. So here he is to talk about Gary Jr.
Okay. There you go.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Gary Jr., when he was 6 years old, he was walking around banking pots and pans. And my wife and I knew we had to put him in sports because he was just active. So we put him in soccer. 6 years old. Fred Soule was his soccer coach, and he played soccer for 4 years. When he was 8 years old, he wanted to play baseball. So I signed him up for baseball, and Bill Jenkins was his coach for baseball. He played the Little League baseball all the way up till he was 15. At 10 years old, all he wanted was football. He weighed 62 pounds. I took him and signed him up. T.S. Childers walked up to me and said, "Is that your boy?" I said, "Yeah, that's him." He said, he's awful little. I said, but he wants to play. TS signed him up for his team. The first time TS let him run the ball, there was two 200-pounders on that team. Stanley Edmiston and Nathan Coffey. Both of them hit Gary Jr. at the same time. And his legs shot out like a frog. I was worried about it. I thought about it. On the way home, I said, Gary Jr., are you sure you want to play football? He looked at me, a big grin come across his face. He said, Daddy, I love it. So I knew not to ask him no more. And he played football with TS for 3 years. The last 2 years, he was the star running back, running touchdowns and scoring. He went to Gamewell Middle School at 8th grade, and he was the running back there, scoring touchdowns, getting rushing yards. He went to high school. When he got to high school, there was a whole bunch of boys wanting to play and wanting to run the ball, but he had to work his way to the top. He did. And he was the star running back in the 9th grade and the 10th grade, leading scorer and leading rusher. In the 10th grade, they had a game against East Burke. The night before Hugo. All of us remember Hugo. The night before Hugo, he rushed for 5 touchdowns in that game. I hadn't seen him run that good before, and I was real proud of him. And then he went on to the varsity. Before he went to the varsity, they moved him up in the last game, his 10th grade year, against Central Cabarrus. I didn't think he'd get to play, but I looked out there in the 3rd quarter, and there he was on the field. And they handed him the ball. He got good yardage. They handed it to him several times, and he got good yardage every time they handed him the ball. The announcer that time was our man back here.
Mr. Jones.
Jeff Jones.
Oh, Jeff Jones, yeah.
He compared him to Natron Means. Natron Means was the running back for Central Cabarrus.
He was.
And he compared him to him, the way he was running the ball. He went on to varsity, and he had good running games in varsity. Real good games. In the 12th grade, they were playing East Burke right after the incident at West. And he was trying to keep his football team together. He loved football and he loved his teams. And he loved West Caldwell. He scored 2 touchdowns in that game and rushed for over 150 yards. The last 2 games of the season before the Hibriten game, he rushed for over 200 yards in both of those games and scored touchdowns. And it was time for the black and blue game. I said, well, Gary Jr. and I always had a ritual. I'd buy him 2 candy bars before every game to pump him up. And I told him, I said, I don't think we're going to make the playoffs this year. West Caldwell hadn't missed the playoffs since 1979. So I don't think we're going to make them. And the people here in Caldwell County will never get to see you play again. I said, when you go out there tonight, give them something to remember you by. That big grin come across his face. I knew he was ready. Before halftime, Karen Trivett stopped the game and gave him the game football because he had broken the career rushing record of some good running backs at West Caldwell. Best running backs there. At the end of the half, he had scored 6 touchdowns, had rushed for 239 yards, and he was just so happy, and I was too. My chest was sticking out. I was waiting for the second half. Second half didn't come. West didn't want to beat them no worse than they was beat, so he got to play a little defense, but he didn't play no more on offense. His last 2 years at West, his varsity years, he made the All-Big Six conference both years. He led the team in rushing and in scoring, and he just made me and his mama proud. He went to Lees McRae the next year, and he had some good games there at Lees McRae. His mom and I were able to go to every game. The last game of the season, we were up in Findlay, Ohio. Well, that's up near Canada. And we just loved to watch him play. He made us proud. He played all the sports. He played basketball, he played baseball, and he run track. And he just loved his teams and his school. I want to thank all you nominating committee for putting him in the Hall of Fame. And I want to thank all his coaches are not here, but I want to thank all his coaches for teaching to do the right things and play the right kind of way. I'm happy just talking about my son, and I thank y'all.
You're welcome, Gary.
That goes there, and this goes here. And I know I'm killing that other mic, but we'll get it squared away here in a moment. There we go. Wonderful remarks, Gary. Thank you. It's obvious the pride that a father has for his son. I'm going to read the official plaque now that will be displayed along with all the other plaques. Gary Jr. Phillips, football, basketball, baseball. Born in Caldwell County on September 9, 1974, to Gary Sr. and Marie Phillips. Played all sports in the local Optimus Youth League. Played for T.S. Childers in Bunny Maynard football. Played 8th grade football at Gamewell Middle School. Attended West Caldwell High School, graduating in 1992. Scored 5 touchdowns. You heard Gary Sr. talk about it, in a JV football game at Eastburg. 2-time all-conference halfback while on the Warrior varsity. Finished his career holding several school football records, including most yards rushing in a single game, 255. Most yards rushing in a season, 1,315. Most yards rushing in a career, 2,320. Participated also in basketball and baseball. A member of the AFS and the FCA clubs at West Caldwell. Actively worked to improve race relations on his campus and in the community in the aftermath of 2 student deaths on campus in September 1991. Planned a memorial for the deceased and raised funds to help defer family expenses. Enrolled at Lees McRae College and was a member of the football team there. Tragically killed on January the 2nd, 1993. West Caldwell retired his football jersey, number 31, at the 1993 homecoming game. Gary Phillips. And that's right, thank you for mentioning that. 4 generations of this family here tonight. We got a great grandchild right over here. But Gary now joins his his grandfather in the Hall of Fame. Werner was inducted many years ago, and that's the first time in the history of the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame that we have a grandfather and a grandson in the Sports Hall of Fame. Would the family and friends of Gary Phillips Jr. and his former teammates please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Gary Phillips Jr. is now and forever enshrined in the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Gary's family. We now turn our attention to the Suddreth part of the program. We've not had relatives inducted in the same year before, but these cousins are about to be inducted. And Bruce, I'm going to go first with you. I'm going to save Ray for last. No particular reason other than it's alphabetical that way. How's that? Bruce Suddreth's presenter is Steve Crisp. I'm going to ask Bruce and Steve both to come up. Coach, if you'll come up. Steve's going to present the medallion and read the personal plaque.
A few years ago, more like 60 years ago, Bruce and I were teammates at Happy Valley High School in basketball and baseball. That's the only sports Happy Valley High School offered at that time, basketball and baseball. Now, most schools offer about 24 or more, it seems. We played baseball and basketball, and his senior year, actually, we didn't even have a gym. They had torn down our old World War II Quonset hut that we'd been using for a gym for several years, while they were building a new gym at Happy Valley, the current gym there. And so we practiced on a dirt basketball court outside, and every now and then we'd get to go down to Patterson School and get about 30, 40 minutes of practice in there. And we still won quite a few ball games. And we also won a few baseball games too. At that time, if you're familiar with Caldwell County geography, you know that Happy Valley lies right at the foot of the mountain going up to Blowing Rock. And several guys from our community would hitchhike most of the time up to Blowing Rock, I believe, and caddy during the summertime. That was before everybody rode golf carts like they do today. And they became acquainted with another sport, golf. I became acquainted with that sport a few years later. But that's the sport that Bruce excels in. And the sport that he is being inducted for is golf. But he wasn't a bad basketball player either. And a pretty good left-handed hitting catcher too in baseball. So I remember those things. But he is inducted for his career in golf, and it's been a very outstanding career as it is. The Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame plaque reads, Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame presented to Bruce Suddreth. I remember that Suds, Bruce. That was the old name, wasn't it? Baseball, football, inducted October football.
I can get him up here.
He played football? We didn't have a football team. We may have to correct this plaque, I don't know. Or you tell us some secrets, Bruce. Inducted October 28, 2019, sponsored by the Caldwell County Rotary Club. It's with pleasure that I present to you Bruce Suddreth, another Happy Valley guy, and there's some good guys up there. Bruce, congratulations. We'll also do the medallion.
Just stick that on him and give him that lapel pin.
Here, come around here, right? I won't choke you. There we go. And here is the lapel pin. Thank you. Congratulations.
Bruce, don't run off. I'm going to read the official plaque and then I'm going to turn it over to you. Bruce J. Suds, you go explain that, I assume. Suddreth. Born November the 8th, 1940, in Lenoir, North Carolina, to Luther and Carmen Suddreth. Graduated in 1959 from Happy Valley High School. 4-year letterman in basketball and baseball. Graduated from Appalachian State University in 1963. 4-year letterman in golf, 1962 and 63 conference and district NAIA champions. Golf professional at Blowing Rock Country Club, 1965 to 1972. Co-head professional at Cedar Rock Country Club, 1967 to 69. Golf Director at Gaston Country Club, 1972 to 1995. Emeritus Professional, 1966 to the present. Officiated in 44 golf majors, 4 World Golf Championships, 2 Ryder Cups. Rules official for the Senior PGA Tour, 1996 to 2000. Tournament Director for the Senior PGA Champions Tour, 2001 to 2005. Private golf instructor and coach from 2006 to present. 58 of his players have earned golf scholarships. PGA Master Professional. Carolina's Pro of the Year in 1980. President of the Carolinas PGA, 1982 and 83. Twice voted Carolina's PGA Teacher of the Year, 1989, 1991. Inducted November the 29th, 1999 to the Carolinas PGA Hall of Fame. Inducted in 2012 to the Gaston County Sports Hall of Fame. Married to Patricia L. Sudreth with 2 sons, Bruce Jr. and William. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Sudreth.
Wow. I tell you, for the county that you were born and grew up in, to call you back and to honor you in the Sports Hall of Fame is absolutely phenomenal. It's wonderful. And I'm so thankful and so humble and just really appreciate it very much for the honor. Now, how in the world, although Steve alluded to it, did a country boy from Happy Valley have a career in golf? Well, it started with my uncle, June Ford. By the way, his family is here tonight, which surprised me, to honor me. Took me to caddy when I was 11 years old, Blowing Rock Country Club. And I went every summer from then on until I graduated from high school. And then when I graduated from high school, went to college. Baseball I loved. We had baseball and basketball. Baseball was my really favorite game in high school, but my baseball career kind of cut a little short by a couple of guys named Jack Curtis and Gary Henson. If you ever faced them, well, you realize you weren't as good as you thought you were. So golf was my game, and so I was able to play 4 years in college, and I think that was the greatest time of my life. And I tell kids now today that I work with to gain college scholarship, that's going to be the best time you'll ever have, is those 4 years. And so my golf career actually ended up into 3 different areas. And so it's kind of like 3 careers in one. And golf has been so good to me. The first career, of course, being that of a golf professional. When I graduated from Appalachian, I became the assistant golf professional at Blowing Rock Country Club and also Lenoir Golf Club. Lenoir in the wintertime and Blowing Rock in the summer. Did that for a couple years, and then the golf professional at Blowing Rock Country Club retired, and I was given the head professional job. And Blowing Rock being a seasonal job, then for a couple of years I went to Florida and was the teaching pro at Tamarack Country Club in Fort Lauderdale. But then Pat and I got married in '65, and so this splitting, and when we started having a family, this going south to Florida also, although it sounds nice in the wintertime, but when you got a young family, it just doesn't work. And so Cedar Rock had an opening, and I worked for 3 years as the co-head professional along with Roger Thomas and Stan Miller until they got their certification, and then I finished up there. But I ended up at Gaston Country Club in '72 And so, which was perfect for Pat and I, because then we had a year-round, she was in the education profession, so she had her year-round position, and then so did I. And it was at Gaston Country Club that they permitted me and helped me to promote not only myself but also the club in becoming very much involved in the PGA of America and then also the USGA. I was very fortunate. I got a good reputation as a teacher, and so I had a lot of very good pupils. At that particular time, I had 10 LPGA Tour pros, one of which won the Senior Women's Open in Jane Geddes while I was there. But it also enabled me to go on and get PGA Master Professional status. And one of the requirements, or two of the requirements in PGA Master Professional is that you had to be an expert, so to speak, on the rules of golf. So I became very much involved in the rules of golf. So much so that I was appointed to the PGA of America Rules of Golf Committee, which then I had assignments as far as officiating in major championships and also regular tour events. And one year in working the Masters, a friend of mine, Ben Nelson, and I were sitting by, and he was at that particular time, the tournament director for the PGA Tour. And I'd been at that time at Gaston Country Club for 22 years, and so the family was grown, and Pat and I talked about it, and it was kind of time, it was a good time to travel, a good time to maybe do something else. And so I asked Ben, I said, Ben, you know, I think I might enjoy doing something like you're doing right now. He says, well, we have an opening on the senior tour right now if you're interested. So I went out a couple weeks later, worked a senior tour event, was hired for the next year, and that's when I retired from Gaston Country Club in '94, and then went to the senior tour. When I retired, they made me golf professional emeritus because they wanted me to be able to teach there as long as I wanted to, which was a great honor for them. And so at the same time, I was appointed on the Rules Committee of the USGA, which now the USGA Rules Committee is a little different from the PGA. USGA, that's the committee that actually writes the rules of golf. So I was one of those old men that sat in the wrote the rules of golf that supposedly didn't know what they were doing. So, and that also involved me officiating in so many more major championships. So now, the most fun I had as a rules official was getting to meet and getting on a first name basis to all these famous golfers that I looked up to all my life. Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, Gary Player. To every week to watch them practice play, talk to them on a first name basis, and getting their little deals on what they do. And I always made it a point to speak to them, every player in the field, every week. And I always did that on the practice tee during practice round days or pro-am days. And I'd like to ask them some certain things, what they were working on. So I learned so much from them. I know Lee Trevino loved for me he didn't like, when he practiced, he didn't like a lot of interference, but he would like for me to stand with him while he was hitting balls, because then people would think that I was there on official business, and he would talk to me and hit balls. You know, and I said, okay. And I said, well, how do you do this? And how do you do that? And he just loved to do that. Well, I learned so much from so many of the players. And then that was fine. I was having a lot of fun traveling all over the United States and working events and getting to know the players and going out to dinner with them at night. Well, lo and behold, my boss, who was the tournament director for the senior tour, retired. And then the commissioner for the PGA Tour asked me into his office. He said, okay, Suds, it's yours. Well, now it changed from being fun to hard work, because as a rules official, I only had to work 28 weeks a year, and then when I was off, I was off. They didn't care what I was doing. But now, as tournament director, I'd work 52 weeks a year. So it just, I was never off, even when I was home. Now, I refused to move to Ponte Vedra, which they wanted me to do, so they set up an office in home where people would call me at Ponte Vedra, and they'd just switch it to my home in Gastonia, and people would think I was there. I had an office in Ponte Vedra, and they actually made a storeroom out of it, because I don't think I spent 2 days there in 5 years. So it became very difficult, because now, not just giving rulings, now I'm in charge of the players. I tell them what they do, what they can do, and I have to discipline. And you say, well, discipline? Now, these guys are, and listen, boys will be boys. I don't care. You know, they can be pro golfers, pro football players, or whatever, and sometimes they would do. But the PGA's discipline program is a little different. They never advertised, and it was kind of amusing because a person so small as me compared to some famous golfer said, well, how in the world can you go up? So I said, the pen is mightier than the sword, because all we had to do was write the fine, and they'd have to pay before they were permitted to play next week. So we had locks, and they knew it, so it worked out pretty good. But I got, and I told Tim Fincham that I would do that until I was 65. And that's when I hung it up there and retired for the second time with the PGA Tour. And I really didn't at that time know what I was going to do after retirement other than play a lot of golf myself, which I hadn't got to do lately. But it was on the northeast coast of Scotland. I was working the Senior British Open, and I was talking with a friend of mine who I sometimes gave a lesson to, and he had a daughter that I had taught when she was young. And he says, what are you going to do now that you're retiring? I said, well, I haven't figured it out yet. He said, well, let me give a proposition to you. He says, my daughter is just graduating from the University of Texas. She's not made All-American. She wants to turn pro. How about considering being her coach? And so we chatted some more, and that's when I accepted being her coach. And when I started doing that, things tend to grow. I go to Gastonia, and Forest View, Larry Taylor and I were talking about, Forest View High School had a wonderful golf team, and some of the parents saw me do this, and they said, Bruce, would you consider coaching my son? And so I had a long talk with the pro there, Mike Taylor, because I didn't want to step on any toes of his, but he said, look, I don't have time, because my standard golf lesson with a player of that caliber is 3 hours. Well, the local pro doesn't have time to spend, let's say, 2 3-hour lessons a day, because they might spend 30 minutes. So this was all I was going to do. But I had more gratification, self-gratification out of this, and it just blossomed. Well, let me tell you how it really blossomed. It not only blossomed, it exploded. And it exploded with a skinny little guy named Harold Varner. Excuse me. Harold worked at the club, picking up range balls, cleaning clubs, putting up carts and whatnot. But one afternoon, he came to me. He said, Mr. Sudderth, he said, I play on the Forest View golf team. And he said, I need to get better. He said, would you consider working with me? I said, be here at 10 o'clock the next morning. So we started to work. And we worked, and we worked, and we worked. And he got better, better, and better. Because I never worked with anybody that would work so hard. Well, he had the biggest tournament. He was 16 years old, and the biggest tournament he had ever played in was his high school championship. Now, to put that in proper perspective, you know, when Jordan Spieth was 16 years old, he played in his first PGA Tour event and made the cut. So Harold never had those opportunities. So through the first tee in Charlotte, we got Harold an invitation to the Pro-Am out at Pebble Beach, where they take a junior golfer, and the junior golfer is paired with a PGA professional. So, and a local businessman in Charlotte paid all the expenses and through the first tee, and Harold got to go to Pebble Beach. Now here's a kid that hadn't been out of Gastonia, and all of a sudden he's playing at Pebble Beach. And he's wanting to go to college, and I said, Harold, we've got to get you some publicity, because nobody had even bothered making him an offer. He was, by that time, a senior. He'd moved up to next year, but he still had no offers for scholarships. And as the luck would have it, and of course I called out, I still knew the guys on the tour, so I called out and I said, look, I've got a kid coming out there, he's really, really good, but I don't want you to put him with the big names. Don't put him with Palmer or Tom Watson or somebody like that. I said, put him with somebody who's a real good course manager, who's a good putter, because he needs to work on his putting more than anything, and ask Dave Stockton to give him a putting lesson while you're out there. And that all came about. He was paired with Morris Witowski. Now, Morris was a really good player and was very successful on tour, really good in managing the game. He wasn't the longest hitter out there, but he really knew how to manage his game. And this is exactly the type of player that Harold needed to watch play. Well, as luck would have it, on Sunday afternoon on national television, Harold birdied 4 out of the last 7 holes on national television, including hitting the 18th green in 2, the par 5 at Pebble Beach, and 2 putting to birdie for them to win by 1 shot. Well, when he gets back, my telephone's ringing, so is his. But the coach from East Carolina had saw this telecast. So he asked Harold to come down and visit East Carolina. And Harold and his mother went down. And so, Harold was, no matter what he did, he had to do what his mother told him to do. His mother was the boss. So they get to East Carolina and to talk about him coming to school there. And so, in all the process, he told him, the mother finally speaks up and brings everything to, she says, now wait a minute. So we hear all this thing, but I still haven't heard anything about scholarship. What would you give Harold if he comes to East Carolina? And he said, look, if Harold comes to East Carolina, the only thing he'll have to pay is $12 a year parking pass. So that gave him 4 years of college paid for. And he graduated in 4 years. But I'll never forget the first break, he comes home, and I said, okay, how's it going? He said, well, I'm playing good, but I haven't got to play any tournaments yet. He said, the coach has got some pets. I said, Harold, beat everybody and you'll be his pet. Well, the next time he came home, he says, I'm the coach's pet now. So, and so he ends up winning several college tournaments, was the conference player of the year his last 2 years there, and then gets out and wins the North Carolina Amateur, both the stroke play and match play championship, while he's still an amateur right after graduation. And then he turned professional. A local man in Charlotte says, look, you furnish the instruction, the coaching. He says, I'll furnish the money. And he says, but I'm only going to give him money for 1 year. And he's got to make it or break it. Well, he made it. And so this kid who was working for minimum wage last year finished his 4th year on the PGA Tour, and his winnings now were $5.4 million. So, to me, that's just a lot of gratification to see somebody come from there. I've been very fortunate, but I think you can see how it just exploded my business. Everybody, with Harold's success, I was just flooded with parents wanting me to work with their kids. And to date, I've had 58 players. Matter of fact, I just had my 59th player that received college golf scholarships. I want to thank you so much for this honor. It's been absolutely tremendous to be brought back into my hometown and home county. Thank you so much.
Would the family and friends of Bruce Suddreth please stand and be recognized? Bruce Suddreth is now and forever enshrined in the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Bruce. Our last recipient of the evening is Ray Suddreth. Ray, I'm going to ask you and your presenter, Wilford Bean, to please come to the podium. Wilford's going to present the plaque and the medallion, and we'll ask you to come at this time. Kevin? Okay. There's everything you need. All right, thank you.
Good evening. So far we've had baseball, football, golf, and now we want to honor someone in track and field, cross country. I've been given this distinct honor to induct a good friend and a colleague, Ray Suddreth, into the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame tonight. And I say it's an honor because it's not only, Ray is not only a great track and field coach, but he's also a class individual. Ray and I both taught and coached at Hibriten for many years together. And the longer I knew Ray, the more I realized what a quality individual our school was fortunate to have, not only as a coach, but as a teacher and a mentor to our students. Ray graduated from West Mac High School in Charlotte, then App State. And he's a quiet, mild-mannered person, but he brought his youthful and his energetic spirit to our campus. He always had a positive, upbeat attitude, and this not only rubbed off on the students, but on all the faculty around him. When Ray came to Hibriten, track was still in its beginning stages. I know when I went to high school, we didn't have track, kind of like Coach Chris was talking about. And we knew very little about it, and there weren't very many people that were qualified to coach it. So that didn't last long because Ray lived and breathed the sport. He was the one to revive the program and take it to uncharted waters. Excuse me. Ray was the first person I ever knew that constantly ran as an adult. Couldn't figure that out, why anybody wanted to run like he did. You know, we didn't have marathons then, and track was not a huge sport at that time. But whenever he had a free moment, he'd go up on the track and run. He'd run cross country in the afternoons, or he'd run marathons. Now, when I ran, it was to be first in line to the cafeteria. But I didn't quite understand all that running, but Ray ran for the love of the sport and the obvious health benefits that it was associated with it. He passed those love on to his athletes. In his 30 years at Hibriten, Ray established one of the top track and field programs in our state. He had the uncanny ability to encourage students to give the sport a try for the first time ever. Some of his students had never played a sport, but with his encouragement, they were willing to come out and try. He helped them find something that they were good at, such as running a distance or running for speed, relays, the jump events, hurdles, pole vault, etc., so they could contribute something to the team cause. He gave them self-worth. His athletes loved playing for him, and they respected his ability to make them successful. Ray is a man of integrity, a man who would go to no end to help his students succeed. He not only coached track, but he promoted the sport in our county and conferences with tournament events such as Suit Porter Relays and the Special Olympics. He started cross country as a sport at Hibriten, which he coached then for 27 years. His accomplishments were outstanding. He won 34, that's right, 34 conference championships, which included multiple championships for both men and women's track and cross country. He won a state championship in women's track in 1998. He won 2 regional championships and 4 regional runner-ups. Over 210 of his athletes qualified for the state finals, with 4 earning all-state honors. He had 64 individual medalists in track and field, and he was voted Coach of the Year 15 times during his career. Our county has certainly been blessed to have Ray as a teacher, coach, and mentor for so many of our students, and I'm proud to induct him into the Sports Hall of Fame.
You want to read it first?
And the plaque says, Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame, presented to Ray Sudderth, track and field, cross country, coach and educator. Inducted October 28th, 2019, and sponsored by the Rotary Club, Caldwell County. Congratulations, Ray.
You read the plaque first. You can hold on to this, Ray. And Wilford didn't give you this, but there's your lapel piece. Wear that with pride. All right. The official plaque will read, Ray Suddreth, track and field, cross-country coach, educator. Born June 26, 1954 in Charlotte to Horace Ray Suddreth and Sula Luck Suddreth. Graduated from East Mecklenburg? West Mecklenburg. We left off the direction. Graduated from West Mecklenburg High School, a 3-year letterman in cross country and basketball. Graduated cum laude. I know some in here who graduated lordy lordy. Cum laude from Appalachian State University, 1976. And that wasn't enough for him. He went back and got a master's the next year in health and PE. Coached track and field at Hibriten High School for 30 years and cross country for 27 of those. Coached 34 conference championship teams. I know some people would love to have just one. 34 conference championships, 14 in women's track, 10 in men's track, 4 in women's cross country, and 6 in men's cross country. Won the 1998 state 2A championship in women's track and field. 2 regional champions, 4 regional runner-ups. This is a program they didn't even have, and it went to win state championships. Voted Coach of the Year 15 times. Directed the Soup Porter Relays at Hibriten High School from 1981 to 2008. Directed the 2A Track and Field State Championships 2005 and 2006. Founding member and secretary for the North Carolina Track and Cross Country Coaches Association. Earned Level 1 USA Track and Field Coaching Certification. Pole vault coaching certification. USATF National Level Official certification. Taught at Hibriten High School from 1978 to 2008. Achieved the National Board Certification in 2000. Also taught PE at Caldwell Community College, serving there from 2012 to 2016. Coached basketball at Hibriten for 10 years, 2 years at Caldwell Community College. Inducted into the Hibriten Athletic Hall of Fame in 2007. Partner and still active in Big Kahuna timing for high school and college meets. Married to Belinda Allman Suddreth, 2 sons, Clay and Kyle. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Famer Ray Suddreth.
I'm still active at Caldwell Community College. I'm just down to part-time. This is the way I do it in the classroom. We've been sitting for a long time. If you're flat on one side and want to even it out, you may stand up if you wish for the next 1 minute. If you haven't spoken to the person next to you, shake their hand and introduce yourself. The minute starts now. And Jeff, you may want to sit down. You haven't gotten to sit for a while.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that.
Oops. Uh-oh. 20 seconds, folks. I'm a timer. I time everything. Okay, thank you for your patience and for waiting for me to get here. I'd like to thank the Caldwell Rotary Club for the creation of this hall, as well as for my induction. I'd like to thank my family and friends for being here tonight, and the surprises of those that showed up for me. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I'd like to express my appreciation to Steve and Jean Branch for my initial nomination. Their son Justin ran for me. And to Wilford Bean and Karen Trivett and the other members of the selection committee for making this happen. I am deeply honored. After Chris called me and told me of this induction, as I came down the road, I stopped and walked in and walked down the Hall of Fame. And I'd been told a couple of things. I've been told, first of all, there's no track guys in it. And I walked in, and the first plaque, the very first one you see, is Dr. William Courtney. And his granddaughter Anna was on one of my teams, I don't know how many years ago. And they introduced us, and he hosted me to a basketball game down at University of North Carolina. What a class act. And what struck me about walking down that hall was how many of those folks I have had contact with in my years at Hibriten High School and at Caldwell Community College. And as I go through this, I'm going to try to mention all the ones that I have had contact with. They asked us to speak about who had influenced us during our career. Well, the first big influence in my career was the lady in the blue Mustang. It's fall semester 1973. I'm a sophomore at NC State University in the School of Forest Resources. And I thought I was going to be a conservationist or a wildlife agent, and I never could have made it measured up to the standards of Jack Mason, but I think I could have pulled that career off pretty well. But as I'm riding home to my parents' house from Raleigh to Charlotte with a guy that finished a year ahead of me at West Mecklenburg, the lady in the blue Mustang ran a stop sign, broadsided us. Her car went end over end, ours went around this way. We all ended up in somebody's front yard. And during the week I spent in the hospital, I made up my mind that I was going to change my major. And at that time, NC State did not have a physical education major. Your choices in the western half of the state were Wake Forest or Appalachian State. And there was a certain young lady that was already enrolled at Appalachian State, and that kind of influenced my decision. But the good thing about it, and I appreciate the applause from these tables over here, I really do. The good thing about it is when you transfer, you get to start your GPA over again. So there's a little asterisk beside that cum laude. But when I transferred, I fell in love with the science courses, the anatomy, the physiology, the exercise physiology, and the movement courses, the kinesiology. And I don't think 2 years earlier I would have been ready for it. The next big influence on me was a fellow by the name of Dr. Jay Kearney. In the summer of 1974, he was teaching a track and field methods course, 6-week-long course. It's the hardest course I've ever taken in my life. It was his last course he was teaching before he left to go be the exercise physiologist at the University of Kentucky. This guy was an athlete. He was so good that after he left, he took up flat water canoeing and won 7 national titles in singles and doubles. He would challenge us, and he made us learn, and he encouraged us to learn. No, he made us learn every event. We learned how to pole vault with aluminum vault poles, 9-6 was my top. We high jumped. We learned to throw the discus, the javelin, all the things some of them I'd never even heard of before. We ran sprints, and he ran right alongside. We ran distance, and I thought, here's something I can beat him in. We did a 3.5-mile run up the mountain to what was then the Continuing Ed Center, came back down to the stadium. He's 15 seconds behind me, slapping me on the back, going, way to go, Suddreth. And this guy, in a drill sergeant type of way, he was as tough on us. And not just physically. He made us read, he made us study, read mostly the Track and Field Omnibook, which is an encyclopedia of track technique for all events. And this guy, after finishing his course, I found the way that the science integrated into each event. And I was pretty well turned on. The next guy that influenced me was Dr. Jim Avant, and I know you remember Jim. These app guys do. After I finished undergrad, he chose me, just from a pile of applications, he chose me to be his head graduate assistant in the Department of Intramural Sports. And it allowed me to pay for graduate school. It allowed me to take a curriculum that was new at that time, and it was intended, it was to develop teachers and instructors for our growing community college system that was just getting ready to explode across the state. The one thing I learned from Jim Avant was persistence. He had a never give up attitude, and he transferred it to a lot of us. It's summer of '78, and I'm applying around for jobs, and Jack Pennell, he's on the wall out there, a member of this hall, hired me to be physical education instructor and track and field coach at Hibriten High School. While I'm holding off Hibriten, while I'm having a couple of interviews with a community college in the middle of the state, I didn't get that job. Another app grad did. By the time his former college ended up offering me his former position, Belinda and I had already signed with Caldwell County Schools, and so we said, we're set. We're gonna start our careers right here. I found out later that Jack Pennell didn't really hire me. It was Janet Mason. He handed it off another member of this hall. Janet said, hire the app guy. And I had the pleasure of working with Janet in 2 shifts. She worked for a while. She went to the Asheville, to the Youth Detention Center in Swannanoa, worked there for many years and came back. But folks, I miss her still. And I go to, I've been a couple of times to her favorite place on the face of the earth, up to Wiseman's View. And when the wind blows, I believe you can hear her speaking to us. I was only going to be at Hibriten High School in Caldwell County Schools a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. And it turned into 30. It's the 80s, and I'm doing stuff like playing on the educators softball team in the summertime that GC Trivet and is sponsoring, and Karen's in the dugout keeping score and keeping him straight. And they're both members of this hall. More connections. When I first went to Hibriten, I inherited a pretty good program that was already in place. First of all, we had the best place around, the best physical facility. We had stands. Not many tracks did. I inherited some athletes too. Jeff Taylor, who is not here, couldn't be here tonight. He wanted to be. He spoke to me twice. Jeff was a distance runner. He ended up coaching his own state championship cross-country team at Bunker Hill High. And that guy over there, Tim Cook, was our hurdler and vaulter and relay guy. And we got, the first year, we were undefeated for the entire regular season. We got to the conference meet, and we hosted it. And Tim was a little under the weather, and he actually finished second in one event. He had been winning everything all year. And I, the young coach, fiddled with a relay. I changed some guys around. I did a little more than I needed to do, and they disqualified it. No points. We ended up finishing second by 2 points, and it killed me. It just wore me out. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't. My first big chance, and I blew it. Now, those 34 conference titles, they were real important to me, and because, in part because of the way I started off. And I really wanted to get to 30 in 30 years, and it worked out for me. But every now and then, something would happen that would put things in perspective and remind you that it's not about how many titles you win, it's about your relationship with the kids and seeing some growth from them. Things like having a kid not winning a title because the kid and the mom had to move away to get away from the abusive dad. When your best runner has a substance abuse problem and he disappears. And I can't take any credit. I was totally clueless until the parents said, he's got to go. We got to take him away. So it put things in perspective. Now, it's the 80s. I'm playing softball. I'm doing things in the, settling into the community. I'm hoping my first son isn't going to be born in the bleachers at Mulberry Rec while we're playing. Before long, Clay was joined by Kyle, and they're up and big enough to be jumping up and down and playing on pole vault pits. I had a coach that I worked with named Tony Allman, who came to me and said, we're starting a girls program. He said, how can we recruit more, not just girls, but more recruit from our school? and the light bulb went on, which is sometimes was kind of dim for me, but and when it went on, the recruiting poster, the Hibriten track and field recruiting poster was born. Now, if you don't know Hibriten High School, it's in 3 levels, and there's big, wide stairs between each level. And above the stairs, big cinder block wall. It's perfect for putting a painting, a picture, anything on. And we would make posters and stick them up there every year. And it would usually say, track in huge letters. And smaller track practice begins on February 15th. I think it's February 1st now. We would, do you have fleet feet? Huge letters. I got in a little trouble when I put SEX exclamation point in 4.5-foot bright red letters. And then, now that we have your attention, track practice starts on February 15th. Now, my administration at that point said they wanted me to temper that back a little bit. And while I'm talking about it, I need to mention I was lucky enough to work for some really good people. Herb Stevens for a long time, Andy Anderson over here, another member of this hall, Jack Hoke, Buzz Sims, Lewis Wright, all these guys were new enough to let you work, leave you alone and let you work when that was the appropriate thing to do, and when you needed it, to give you a shove in the direction that you needed to go. And I appreciate that from all of them. Now, about 1986, I have the privilege of coaching with Debbie Atwater Mason, Janet's sister-in-law. Debbie comes to me and says, I think we got some pretty good girls. And boy, was she right. We'd been winning men's titles, but wow. We had 3 girls that when she put them together, they ended up winning 2 gold medals, state championships, 1 silver, 2 bronze, and then when you put them all 3 together with the next best athlete, and it's turned out it was a different girl each year, they won 2 silver and 1 bronze relay medals. It kind of put us on the map. During that time, I made some friends and colleagues and sometimes rivals from other coaches around the area. Started off, the first one I can remember is Kenny Weaver, who was at St. Stephen's and then later in the Catawba County School Central Office. Steve Kerrigan at Alexander Central and now working with us in Big Kahuna Timing. And he's a lot better friend now that he's won the half and half. From this county, Mike McCall and Rick McCrary, who left us just this year, way too soon. And for a lot of us, I'd like to say, Rick, we miss you, big guy. Then later on, Craig Styron from this county, and then some guy from Newton Conover named Tim Elrod. As I said, they were all friends, colleagues, and occasionally rivals. So we're still in the 80s. I'm starting sending people to track and field camps and distant running camps, and the easiest one was up at Appalachian. And Mr. John Weaver, who just recently retired as the director of track and field at ASU, I don't know how much you know this, but when I would send kids to your camps, John, and he's sitting right over here, I would come with them a lot of times. I would sneak up and sit in for a day, and we spawned several of those state individual titleists in your camps. And then if you want to, Laura, if you want to run with the big dogs, if you want to get better, you got to run with the big dogs. I used to tell them that. You got to go where the competition is. This Rotary Club through the late 80s and halfway through the 90s would sponsor our kids, every other year to the Wendy's Track Classic in Knoxville, Tennessee. And it drew from 13 states. Really good competition. Deb, you probably made a trip or two over there with me, I think. We'd take our people there, and if they could hold up there, they could run against the state meet competition, no problem. That's why we hosted the Soup Porter Relays. Yet another member of this hall is named after him by that other Rotary Club in the county. You got to you got to compete against better people if you want to get better. There were some unique folks that graduated from Hibriten High School in the 80s. There's, 1, 2, 3 back there from the class of 86 that I've remained close to through the years. And I'd like to thank them for being here and for their friendship and their support through the years. And it's Derek Ellington's back there, John Blair, Mike Boland, Neil. Were you maybe class of 85? Hey, I got one. I have stories to tell on Neil, but that'll be another day. Stories to tell on all these guys. Going into the 90s, I started doing things like having cross-country camping trip weekends on the Blue Ridge Parkway, so kids would get their distance in. We'd go up, run Friday night, camp out, get up and run the next morning, eat a brunch, and come home. Laura, you remember getting lost? She and I were supposed to be running a 7 to 8 mile run. We took a wrong turn. At about mile 9, I'm saying, come on, Laura, you can do it. But at about mile 13, she's almost carrying me. In the 90s, and actually I found out tonight it was 2000 when they came to town. At a sports medicine clinic, I met Dr. Jeff Keverline, and he's the one that's kept me going all these years. Everything we managed here, my teams, I didn't do anything. My teams set up an opportunity, and they were able to do some good things. But everything that they accomplished, for me to stay with it that long, I am very thankful, feel lucky that we have someone of his little Caldwell County had and kept someone of his ability and his caliber. I'm on my 4th joint transplant, artificial joint now. Look, Doc, I'm doing great. Shoulder's great. And I'm thankful for that. Rolled around in 1998. We had a unique group of girls. Had about 3 that were really talented, and then a bunch more that were just good kids, willing to work hard, willing to learn. And they won the state championship. And our state championship was 3 times better than yours, Tim. We won by 3 points. His was only by 1. And there were two girls on that team that were like daughters to me, and I still consider them that way. Rosalind Hood, who's in Fayetteville, who I just spoke to recently, and Laura Todd May, sitting back at the middle table. Laura not only competed well in high school, she competed collegiately at UNC Asheville, and then she came back and coached with me, and then when I retired in 2008 for me. And I don't think there's any bigger compliment that she could have paid me than that. In the year 2000, you read on the plaque, National Board Certification rolled around and was available nationwide in physical education. And here comes that Elrod guy again. Tim Elrod is the one who helped me. First of all, he's the one that said, "Come on and do this with me." And after we completed that, and we both made it in the first year, it gave me the financial incentive to not go into administration the last 10 years of my career, to keep coaching, and I'm sure that kept me happier in the long run too. I don't know if I could have made it, Helen. Doing things like directing state meets and helping organize the NCCTCCA, the North Carolina Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association. Those are things that, it's a lot of work for a little bit or no pay, but it's things that let you feel professionally accomplished, gives you some professional pride. And then first in 2006, and we made it happen in 2007, Mr. Elrod, the big kahuna over here, said, "Why don't we go together and buy a timing system?" And the first one we bought was like the dinosaur of timing systems. And then a year to 2 years later, Lenoir Ryan bought state-of-the-art timing system. The timer cameras that are used, Finish Links brand, that were used for the Olympics. We just have 2008 or 9 model instead of 2019 model. And as I'm finishing up my career, I'm in my last year of part-time at Caldwell Community College. That's how I'm going to get my track fix and my running experience from now on. Is we timed 74, 75 events last year. We're busy boys. But it's gratifying being able to produce and give that service to the colleges and the high schools and the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, especially in the western part of the state. I'm thankful to the big kahuna over there. Now, he's a perfectionist, and sometimes he'll drive you nuts because things have to be exactly so. The truck has to be packed just like this, but that's a good person to be in a business with because we're prepared for everything. We have 2 of everything, and I know I trust him, and I know that if I'm ever in a pickle or there's just something that's bugging me, that he's always willing to lend an ear to take care of whatever the problem is. Y'all forgive me for an inside timing company joke. I couldn't resist. All right, we're almost here to the end of the 20 teens now, and as I said, I'm in my last year working for Dr. Mark Porch, another member of this hall. And there's only one other person, one other influence that I need to recognize, and that's the young lady sitting here, Belinda Lee Allman Suddreth. 1 month from today, on November 28th, we will have been together. We will have been married 45 years. Now, I know it's hard for some of these folks that know me to believe this, but I've not always been the best husband and the easiest person to live with. So she deserves an award for that. Baby, none of this would have occurred had it not been for you. Anything that our teams, because she's always been Ms. Coach, accomplished, I give you the credit to you. Thank you all. Jeff, I'll turn it back over to you.
Would the family and friends of Ray Sudreth please stand to be recognized? And any former players as well. Thank you. Ray Sudreth is now and forever enshrined in the Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame, and my voices are getting to go. What a night. Baseball, track, football, golf. Pretty wide diversity of inductees tonight. And each and every one of them had a wonderful story to share with us this evening. Folks, this is a labor of love, this committee that does this work. Your Caldwell County Sports Hall of Fame committee will begin work for the 2020 banquet, the 32nd annual, pretty soon after the first of the year. And it will be on the last Monday night in October. I haven't looked to see if it's Halloween yet or not, Chris. But if it is, we'll still be here for trick or treat. So we invite you to come back and be with us. Thank you for making this a very special evening for each of our inductees, excuse me, and their families. We encourage you to stay a while, take some photographs, catch up with old friends. Be careful on your way home. And thank you for making this a part of your evening tonight. Good evening.